I'm Grace. Today, we're examining one of the most powerful psychological techniques used in high control groups: mystical manipulation. This is Robert Jay Lifton's second criterion of thought reform. And here's why it matters. Mystical manipulation transforms ordinary people into unquestionable authorities by making their control appear divinely ordained. Lifton defined it precisely: the contrived engineering of experiences that appear spontaneous or supernatural, but are in fact planned and orchestrated by the group or its leaders to demonstrate divine authority, special insight, or spiritual advancement. In practical terms, leaders arrange events, then reinterpret them as signs from God, the universe, or destiny. This prevents followers from questioning the system because questioning becomes questioning fate itself. Today, we'll examine two modern, publicly documented examples: multi-level marketing company LuLaRoe and the MAGA movement. Each demonstrates how mystical manipulation works and why it's so effective. MLM. When manifesting, mass calculating. The structure of MLM: mystical manipulation. Multi-level marketing companies have perfected mystical manipulation. Let's examine LuLaRoe and similar organizations. The setup: the mystical promise. LuLaRoe recruited tens of thousands of women, mostly stay-at-home mothers, with promises of financial independence. But the language wasn't transactional. It was spiritual. Recruiters told potential sellers, "The universe brought you to me at exactly the right time. This isn't coincidence. This is destiny. God has a plan for your financial freedom." This is mystical manipulation at the recruitment stage. The opportunity isn't framed as a business decision requiring analysis. It's framed as a divine calling requiring faith, manifestation, and blame shifting. When LuLaRoe sellers struggle to turn profits, and 99% of MLM participants lose money, they were told the problem wasn't the business model. The problem was their energy, mindset, or faith. According to former LuLaRoe retailers interviewed in the documentary LuLaRich, if you questioned the system, you were told you had negative energy. If you couldn't recruit, you weren't visualizing hard enough. If you went into debt, you hadn't surrendered to the universe's timing. This is textbook mystical manipulation. Failures are reinterpreted as spiritual tests. Successes are proof of the doctrine. The system can never be wrong. The 2021 documentary LuLaRich and subsequent reporting by BuzzFeed News documented how LuLaRoe encouraged sellers to go into massive debt, framing it as investment in your destiny. Pressured sellers to convince their husbands to quit stable jobs. Isolated sellers who questioned the model, forbidding others from speaking to them. Used the language of manifestation and positive thinking to blame victims for systemic failure. Cult expert Rick Ross, interviewed in the documentary, confirmed this is classic thought reform. The ideology is presented as infallible. When reality contradicts it, reality must be wrong. Mystical manipulation works in tandem with milieu control, Lifton's first criterion. MLM companies create information bubbles, constant team meetings and convention attendance, controlling your environment, discouraging outside research or negative news about the company, creating private Facebook groups where only success stories are allowed, teaching recruits to avoid friends and family who question the business. When your information environment is controlled, mystical narratives become the only reality you can access. MAGA, the political theology of the chosen one. Now let's examine mystical manipulation in a political context. The Make America Great Again movement. On August 21, 2019, standing before White House reporters, Donald Trump looked skyward and declared, "I am the chosen one." He later doubled down, calling his presidency part of God's plan. Evangelical leaders amplified this narrative. Pastor Paula White called Trump appointed by God. Evangelical leader Lance Wallnau compared him to King Cyrus, a pagan king used by God to fulfill divine purposes. After the July 2024 assassination attempt, Speaker Mike Johnson declared, "God protected President Trump." At the 2024 Republican National Convention, Pastor Lorenzo Sewell noted that the shooting occurred at 6:11 p.m. and connected it to Ephesians 6:11, "Put on the full armor of God." This wasn't presented as metaphor. It was presented as a cosmic confirmation. Polls following the assassination attempt showed that millions of Americans interpreted Trump's survival as proof of divine favor. This is mystical manipulation. The leader's actions aren't evaluated politically. They're framed as divinely ordained. Questioning him becomes questioning God's plan. QAnon and the storm. QAnon is perhaps the purest modern example of mystical manipulation embedded in a political movement. The engineered prophecy. Beginning in 2017, an anonymous poster known as Q made cryptic predictions about an apocalyptic event called the Storm, a moment when Trump would arrest and execute a global cabal of Satan-worshipping pedophiles, conveniently all Democrats, celebrities, and journalists. Over 4 years, Q posted approximately 5,000 drops, coded messages that followers interpreted as divine prophecies. The pattern of reinterpretation. Here's what's documented by Bellingcat researchers who analyzed all Q drops. Failed predictions. Hillary Clinton would be arrested on October 30th, 2017. Didn't happen. Mass arrests would occur before the 2018 midterms. Didn't happen. Trump would be inaugurated on January 20th, 2021. Biden was inaugurated instead. Trump would be inaugurated on March 4th, 2021. Didn't happen. Trump would be inaugurated on March 20th, 2021. Didn't happen. The mystical reinterpretation. Each time a prophecy failed, followers didn't lose faith. They reinterpreted the signs. The dates were disinformation to confuse the deep state. The storm is happening in secret. We just can't see it yet. Trump had to appear to lose so the cabal would reveal itself. This is Lifton's mystical manipulation in action. Reality is continuously reinterpreted to fit the sacred narrative. Disconfirmation becomes confirmation. The New Apostolic Reformation, NAR. The NAR is a fast-growing charismatic Christian movement that explicitly frames Trump as a prophetic figure. Several high-profile politicians, including Speaker of the House Mike Johnson, Marjorie Taylor Greene, Lauren Boebert, and others have been cited as having close ties to NAR-affiliated churches or leaders. NAR doctrine teaches, God has appointed modern-day prophets and apostles with governing authority. Christians must take dominion over the 7 mountains of culture: government, media, education, business, family, arts, religion. NAR doctrine appointed Trump as God's chosen Cyrus to facilitate this takeover. NAR leaders were heavily involved in January 6, 2021. Footage shows NAR followers blowing ram's horns, shofars outside the Capitol, conducting Jericho marches around the building, reenacting Joshua's conquest, praying warfare prayers to remove demonic principalities from government. NAR follower estimates range from 3 million to 33 million Americans. The Southern Poverty Law Center has called NAR the greatest threat to U.S. democracy that you have never heard of. This is mystical manipulation at scale. Political violence is reframed as spiritual warfare. Opposition isn't political disagreement, it's demonic. Remember, in one of my previous videos, we were discussing milieu control? MAGA's mystical manipulation works because of robust milieu control. Conservative media ecosystems, Fox News, Newsmax, OAN, create alternative realities. Social media algorithms create filter bubbles, where contradictory information never appears. The phrase fake news dismisses all external information sources. Group identity, patriots versus enemies of the people, enforces information isolation. When your information environment is controlled, divine narratives become the only framework available. The pattern, how mystical manipulation works. Let's synthesize what we've learned. Mystical manipulation follows a predictable structure across all high-control groups. Stage 1, establish the leader's divine authority. MLM, success accessed through abundance laws. MAGA, Trump is God's chosen instrument. Stage 2, create conditions for altered perception. MLM, financial stress, plus constant meetings, plus positive thinking. MAGA, political anxiety, plus information isolation, plus apocalyptic framing. Stage 3, engineer miraculous experiences. MLM, testimonials of financial breakthroughs, despite 99% failure rate. MAGA, QAnon proofs, connecting random events to prophecies. Stage 4, reinterpret failures as tests. MLM, you didn't manifest correctly. MAGA, the storm is happening in secret. Stage 5, isolate from reality testing. MLM, avoid negative friends who question. MAGA, dismiss contradictory information as fake news. The result, followers operate in a closed system where the ideology can never be wrong. This is thought reform. Mystical manipulation cannot work without milieu control, Lifton's first criterion. Think of them as interdependent. Milieu control aside to controlling the information environment. Mystical manipulation, controlling the interpretation of experiences within that environment. In MLMs, milieu control, constant team meetings, conventions, private Facebook groups. Mystical manipulation. Successes are manifestations, failures are negative energy. In MAGA, milieu control, conservative media, echo chambers, algorithmic filter bubbles, fake news, dismissals. Mystical manipulation. Trump is divinely chosen. QAnon prophecies, NAR spiritual warfare. You cannot have mystical manipulation without information control. The miracles only work when alternative explanations are unavailable. If you're wondering whether you or someone you know is experiencing mystical manipulation, ask these questions. Do minor events get interpreted as cosmic signs? Is timing constantly framed as divine? Does one person seem to always know what you're thinking? Do they have prophetic accuracy? When predictions don't come true, are they reinterpreted rather than acknowledged? Are doubts framed as lack of faith, negativity, or spiritual immaturity? Are you discouraged from reading criticism, talking to former members, or researching independently? If you answered yes to 3 or more, you're likely experiencing thought reform. Mystical manipulation is sophisticated. It hijacks our natural desire for meaning, connection, and transcendence. But understanding the mechanism breaks its power. Real spiritual experiences don't require engineered environments. Real leaders welcome questions. Real communities don't punish doubt. If you're questioning a group right now, that doubt is your brain trying to protect you. Listen to it. And if you've already left, know that the experiences you had were real. The emotions were real, but the frame was manufactured. You were not deficient in any way. You were psychologically manipulated. Recovery means reclaiming your right to interpret your own experiences without someone else's narrative overlay. You deserve that. Take care of yourself.